post on Facebook 10 times a week.
We had another model moment.
What Keller Williams teaches is clarity is power.
Tell me more.
Keller Williams agents are solving problems all the time. I think we're the very best. You need to tell people that and how you're winning.
Absolutely. Where does the rubber meet the road and my friends on Facebook turn into an appointment? Take 2 minutes here. What's your journey? Because the more Keller Williams people I talk to, the more that I realize the journey of how they got into the business is as important as what they're doing now that they're here. How did you end up in the real estate business, and how did you end up at Keller Williams?
It was definitely interesting. I'll take it all the way back because it kind of is important to the story. I grew up in the military, so I moved around a lot. I moved like 12 times before I turned 14. Ended up in the DC metro area, got a degree in government and politics, master's in national security policy, and thought I was going to be an interrogator for the CIA.
Wow.
And I lost my job at the nonprofit. I had only worked for nonprofits prior to real estate, and I lost my job during the last recession, and I had to make I had to figure out what to do. So my husband suggested real estate, and I knew nothing about it, so thought, that's probably a great idea. I also knew that I wanted to have a family, so I thought maybe I could sort of design my own life, be a little more flexible and do my own thing. I had no idea what I was getting into. I read a book called Up and Running in 30 Days by Carla Cross, which is kind of like a smaller version of MREA. And I wrote out a 40-page business plan and was pretty proud of myself. And I get to Keller Williams and they're like, oh, our business plan is like 1 page. This is our 135. But always humbled working at Keller Williams because there's always so much to learn. So I started out at sort of a local firm, and I jumped to another one. So for the first 2 or 3 years, I was with different firms, and I really I just got to a point where I didn't know where to go next. I had so much business. And I made a phone call to a local Keller Williams office, Brandon Green's office, and he started to talk about inflection points and entrepreneurial versus purposeful. And I was like, oh my God, these are my people. They take such an intellectual, analytical approach. And went in, and I was hooked, and I've been here ever since, and I'm still learning.
It's fantastic. Yeah, that whole idea of that GPS, that 135. Gary said the other day, he said, how can you expect us all to be on the same page if there's more than one page? And I was like, fair, yes, that sounds right to me. So you don't start though as a team owner today. You start as an individual agent. Everybody that owns a big team or a big business today had to build a successful small business. So I want you to think back to when you were doing it and it was just you against the world, and you're building the business and you're building the family, but you're doing it as a sole practitioner. What was your lead source of business at that point? How did you build this practice?
Yeah, so our entire business is fear, and that includes agent referrals. We've never bought a lead or made a cold call. I just really focused on reconnecting with friends, trying to show them that I really understood what I was doing. Every time I would learn something, like I would get into an appraisal issue, and then I would learn, how to get through it, and then I would blog about it. It was back when you could post blogs on Trulia for free. So every time I would learn something, I would post about it on Trulia, and then I would share it on my social media, and people very quickly started to think that I was the expert, and I was just, just pushing through it. I would meet anyone, anywhere, any time of day. I don't care if it was a dark alley at 3 a.m. If you want to buy or sell a house, I was going to help you. So I think my focus on efficiency and effectiveness, which I will say I got from my very impatient parents, really paid off.
And at that time that you're doing this, did you start the family as well? How many littles do you have running around?
It was about a year in that I guess I got pregnant with my first, and now through that time I've had 3 kids.
So that has to change the equation. Like running as a real estate agent before having the first one has to be different after you have the first one, let alone the next 2 to get to 3. What's the lesson that you learn the most as your time stops being yours like that?
Well, and my husband joined the business too, so it's like, about 5 years in. So I think we are a real estate family now. We really had to understand time blocking. If I start to feel like, somebody asked me the other day, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I need to get back to my why. How do I do this? And my answer is always write down, do a time audit, which they teach you at Keller Williams. Do a time audit, figure out everything you've been doing over the last 10 10 days from when you get up in the morning. Like, what's the first thing you do? Are you looking at your phone? Are you already getting this mode of being reactive? And then write down everything that you want to be doing and what you don't want to be doing. And then we're going to figure out some systems and people to sort of get to your perfect day and your perfect week. And so we do that a lot with our family because it is a lot. It's like 3 other little human beings we have to, be responsible for and take care of. But I think having kids has helped me to be a better business owner and a better person, because I think I have to show up differently, and it's just I feel like I have a big responsibility with that.
I love that, ladies and gentlemen. We just had our first model moment. As you know, this is the part of the show where we capture the best models in real estate. And so this time audit idea, let me make sure I got this right. I'm going to look at the last 10 days of my life and I'm going to journal during it. And I'm going to write from the moment I wake up what I'm actually doing. Did I wake up and check my phone, or did I wake up and lean over and say good morning? Like, what am I actually doing? Once I have that documented, I'm then going to make a list of the things that I actually want to be doing. Then make a list of the things that I really didn't enjoy. And on the things I didn't enjoy, I'm going to try to go find leverage, either a piece of technology or a person. And on the stuff I do enjoy, I'm going to do more of that. Did I get it, Sheena?
Yeah, I think what Keller Williams teaches is clarity is power, and it really is.
I love that. Okay, so in your business right now, when you say we're all sphere and agent referrals, let's start with sphere. What's the 1 or 2 things that work best for you when it comes to sphere that if I'm sitting out there, I need to put into my business?
One is the social media aspect. We really focus on Facebook. I suppose you could focus on, any number of social media platforms, but Facebook was really meant to create relationships. And so that's what we do. We see it as sort of our database. And so we're trying to add as many people to it as possible and love on them, right? So it's one thing to post content. It's another thing to have that engagement, that proactive engagement. So I check Facebook.
What's the difference? Like, I want to get really granular now because I talk to so many people and they say, my business is based on social media. But then when I actually go and audit their businesses and I look back at the last year, it's really hard for them to say, okay, that came from social media and that came from social media. And so I have a real hard time equating the time and the dollars that we're yielding from the activity. So are you doing this? Is there a model and a system behind it? Or is this just I wake up and feel good because I post a picture of Jason Abrams, which everyone should do?
Yes. Well, I would feel good doing that.
So how does it work?
So we have a sort of a standard for our team. It's not a requirement. It really is just if you do these things, you will likely close at least 12 deals in a year. And here that yields about $100,000. So, just depending on your market. But it is like the very basic, the foundational model is post on Facebook 10 times a week. So at least like twice a day, 5 days a week, you need to post content on social media. You need to add at least 7 new Facebook friends every week. You need to engage with at least 75 people. And that can mean going on their Facebook, on somebody else's Facebook, and just commenting on a post with sincerity, with something interesting, right? It's not just liking posts that you don't necessarily agree with, like really trying to build those relationships. It's messaging on Facebook. It could be calls, texts, and those sorts of things, but really there's a lot that you can do on Facebook. There's also Facebook groups. So we do a lot of Facebook groups. I run a number of Facebook groups.
Wait, hang on. I'm going to get to the groups in a second. But let me hit this because we just had our second model moment. But I love the fact that you tied numbers to these activities. Friends, in life, if you don't have numbers, it's very difficult to know whether or not the activity is habit formed and if you're actually doing it. So number 1, I got to post to Facebook 10 times a week. I got to do it. Any guidance on these posts, Sheena, or is this just anything that makes my heart open?
Yeah, I think Gary Vee has a lot of information about this. I think really focusing on a mix of information, particularly, so there's, what I mean by that is real estate and your personal life, things that interest you, things that interest others. When you're posting about real estate, I think what's really important and where real estate agents oftentimes can improve is they will post information and they are not really translating the market. They're not being the expert. So for instance, they might say something like, hey, in Dallas right now, the average days on market is 8 and the average yield on list price is 101%. And the average price is now $700,000. Okay, what am I supposed to do with that information? You need to help people understand so they can take action.
There's a great book called Simply Said, and there's a quote in it that says, your audience doesn't care about you. In fact, they don't care about your content either. They care about how your content impacts them. And I think what you're saying is, if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one, and you gotta help them digest the information you're providing. Is that right?
You throw a rock, you're going to hit 10 real estate agents right now. So you've got to figure out ways to stand out.
I tell you, when you throw in at Keller Williams, you hit more than that, but you're right. Okay, so I'm making 10 of these posts per week, but now I got to add 7 new friends a week. So walk me through this, because you don't mean friends like the guys I grew up and went to high school with. You're talking Facebook friends. How do I do that? I feel like I know how to make friends organically. I show up, I say something, someone laughs, that's it. We're best friends. That's how. How do I do it on Facebook?
Yeah, well, it's not so different, I think. A lot of us are getting into conversations, maybe political conversations or conversations about books or whatever it may be. So if you get into one of those conversations on someone else's wall or in another Facebook group, add that person as a friend. You have something that binds you. There's a little bit of trust already there, because what you're trying to do is build trust, because once people have the trust, it's more likely that they're going to use you. You've already broken down that barrier. So I think that's one way, if you're getting into conversations with people who are sort of similar to you. And actually that point about like high school friends, well, the fact is a lot of us have lost contact with our high school, college, and otherwise friends. So definitely go hunt those down. Open up your yearbooks and start finding those people and friending them. And don't worry so much about, are they going to accept, like what's the worst going to happen? They just don't accept, but I promise you that they will. And then, your old workplaces, look for those people. And then in Facebook, it does say, do you want to add this person? So go through that. And I think the final piece is, as you're out there in the real world and you're meeting people, add every single person to Facebook.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so now 7, engage. I love that word. You said engage with 75 people. And needless to say, if you're doing this over the phone or you're doing it with texting, please do it in a TCPA-friendly, compliant way. We mandate that here at Keller Williams. But so go into this. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing as long as I'm staying top of mind and I'm creating some sort of organic feel with the person. Is that right?
That's right. It's important to remember that, because it's not just about when you just post on social media. To me, that's kind of like a billboard, right? So there's something there, but there's not really, you're not having an interaction. So how are you building out that relationship? So I do think it's important to reach out to people on a regular basis, check on them, see how they're doing, comment on what they're saying. It's like this amazing opportunity to go into this huge room of people and you get to interact with people, and that's just what you're doing.
I love that. So I literally, if I was so inclined and I believed that this was going to be a good use of my time, I could time block an hour or 2 a day. And I literally now have a system that I can sit down, and instead of being accused on just playing on social media, now I'm actually working a model. How does it culminate in the end? How do I go from just having a lot of Facebook friends and I'm making a lot of posts to I'm actually transacting real estate business with them? Where does the rubber meet the road and my friends on Facebook turn into an appointment? Am I doing some sort of call to action? How do I get to the kitchen table?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's funny because when I started posting on social media, there weren't a lot of real estate agents doing that 12 years ago. And people always said, you're wasting your time. And what I love about this model, by the way, is this whole idea of you have to lead gen from 8 to 10 or whenever. What I love about this, especially since most of us are super entrepreneurial, is you can get on Facebook any time of day. Whenever you have the most energy, that's when you should be on there, because you can be innovative and interesting and be at your very best positive self, which is what you should be putting out there. So to your question of when does the rubber meet the road, it can happen really quickly, and some of our agents have seen this. When they haven't been posting, they come on our team, we teach them how to do it. They start talking about real estate. I'll give you a really great example. We had an agent who wasn't posting so much on social media, and he was on Facebook, and he was mostly posting on Instagram. He was really young and was like, my friends aren't on there. Well, they're on there, they're just not necessarily engaging as much. But about 2 months into him being on the team, this this girl that he went to high school with said, hey, my father is a builder and he's looking for a team to sell this subdivision he plans to build. And I see that you're in real estate. He'd only been in real estate for 2 years. And so he wasn't necessarily prepared to do it, but we as a team could support him and we could all do this together. And so without his posting, we would never have met with that individual. We're almost done selling the subdivision. We're about to get one more. So it can happen really quickly. And these things can take time to build. But I think just as you're inputting, what happens, I think, is you're showing up, you are sort of, the goal would be really to, there's so many distractions out there. There's so much coming at people. So what are you going to do to really stand out and show your value proposition? First of all, people want to work with people they like. So you have to come off as likable. The other piece is you have to come off as the expert, because that's going to start to build trust. So, being in real estate, like going out and a lot of times agents will say, like, I don't have time to post because I'm always showing homes. You're showing homes, that means you have content. You have stories to tell, you have expertise, you have problems you're getting through. These are the things that you need to post about. You have this privilege, this opportunity. You're actually in the field, so you know what the people need. If you're seeing, like, for instance, we found that people were having a hard time getting to look at homes because they were coming on so quickly, they didn't have time to get a babysitter. So we created a program and said, we will pay for your babysitter, just to make it a little bit easier on them. And so just looking for those opportunities and then posting about it.
I love that. As I'm listening to you, what's popping into my mind is you're using Facebook to solve problems at scale. And one of the problems is I need to make sure that the people that are following me have the most up-to-date real estate information and how it pertains to their life. The people that are following me need to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace. The people that are following me need to feel good and have open heart. You can solve these problems one-to-one. You're just using social media as the vehicle to solve them at scale. And it almost sounds like you're using the whole platform as leverage to me.
Yes, I think that's a very good point. You could go and call every single person, or you can put it out there and your 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 people can view it. We always try to be the first out. If we know that interest rates are going to go up, or if we see something, I always want to be the first one out there explaining what is going on. They can read all of these news articles, but I think that's a really powerful, use your platform for good. There's so much opportunity. I feel like that's the other thing. Like, I think you said solving problems. Keller Williams agents are solving problems all the time. I think we're the very best agents, but we don't tell people this enough. Like, the fact that you do a pricing analysis, you take the time to not just run the comps, but do a detailed price analysis. The fact that you have different ways of helping people compete in this competitive market, you need to tell people that and how you're winning.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. I think I got this model down. Talk to me a little bit about these groups, because as I understand it, the algorithm is different with the groups. Once you're in a group, you're going to see all the posts within it. I mean, there's a lot of benefit to being the curator of Real Estate Town, which is any group you start. But then there's benefits to being in other people's groups. Walk me through how you use it and how you think about it.
I think it's important to do all of those things. Create your own group that you can bring value to. So you want to bring value to those people, and then being in the other groups, because that's just going to give you, even more influence and opportunity. I am in, all the local moms groups, neighborhood groups, as many as I can be in, and I try to be as active as possible. Yeah, our whole staff is virtual. They're made up of Army spouses stationed throughout the country, and what some of them do is help me to post in some of these groups, because it can become a lot. You've got to find that leverage. So we're constantly in those groups, monitoring them. If there's anyone asking about real estate, we're the first. We try to be the first in. We also have a little program, so if those agents, if we have any of our past clients who comment and say, hey, you have to contact Satum Properties Group, we immediately send them a Starbucks gift card. And so people are evangelists for us. In my own Facebook group, because I have this Facebook group, and I don't post a lot of real estate, but I get away with posting some of it because I give so much value. I'm talking about, new stores that are popping up. If any emergencies are happening, we create a lot of events. You have to remember, I think as real estate agents, we come into the business with a lot of unique skills, and we develop a lot of unique skills. So how can you use that to invest in your community? One of the things I like to do is I teach, I created this negotiations class for real estate agents. I modified it a little bit into a 2-hour class on how to negotiate for my women's Facebook group. It has 3,500 women in it, and what I do is I charge $25 to come.
You can't just throw out that you have a 3,500 person women's Facebook group. That's newsworthy. How did that start? What's the agenda there? Why did you choose a women's group?
Trial and error. I knew that people were being really successful with Facebook groups, and I wanted to figure out a way that we could stay in front of our clients beyond the real estate deal. Because most of the time, we just close somebody up and we put them on an email campaign and we're like, call me when you want to buy or sell a house. It's like, bye, next. So how can we really continue to support folks and also grow our network? And so what I started with was, we work DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So I started 3 Facebook groups, one for DC, SPG clients in DC, one Maryland and Virginia. And we really tried to engage with them there. It was a disaster because people didn't feel connected to each other because they lived in the same area. That just wasn't in that, because it's such a wide area. So we pivoted. I moved to this neighborhood, and they had some Facebook groups, but nothing like what I had envisioned. And I had envisioned coming to this community and doing more of what I'd already been doing, which was creating community within a neighborhood. Just because it's a neighborhood doesn't mean there's community. So creating connections and giving back generously. I had really small kids at that time, so it was like, it was a neighborhood with a lot of families, how can we all come together and give to those in need? And so I created this Facebook group hoping that we could achieve that, and I really just kept loving on it and kept giving people opportunities to meet in real life and communicate, and it just kind of took off.
Okay, but you end up at the end of it, this isn't a neighborhood group, this is a women's group. What's the genesis of that?
Women do tend to be a bit more, I think, social online, and they do tend to look for groups, like just in general. They look for not just Facebook groups, but groups to be a part of. And so I guess I was looking for a little bit of a niche, and that's why I created, the women's
Is there
group.
Did you define a mission and a vision for the group?
I think it was just, to build community, bring women together to build community and do good.
Okay, so now you have 3,500 people in this group, and you're bringing value by making posts in it and then curating conversation around those posts. Is that fair?
Most of it's not related to real estate, but because I give so much other value, I can post about my buyer class, my seller class. I can post about listings in the neighborhood.
I love that. You casually threw out, then we invite them to events, which in and of itself is an entire model. So in my brain is telling me, which is that on one side of the ledger you have physical, which is client events and handwritten notes and the Starbucks gift cards. Those happen in a physical. You have all this stuff physically. And on the other side of the ledger you have virtually, which is all of the things that are happening in this conversation on the Facebook platform. And it sounds like you're pulling people out of the virtual world into the physical world. And then you're going back to the digital world to love on them. And you have this symbiotic thing happening in both places. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's very efficient that way to build relationships versus knock on every door.
Yeah. When you have one of these events for these groups, you're planning something physically and then you're inviting everyone in the group to come hang out. Do people meet for the first time ever? Are they like, oh my gosh, I've been chatting with you online, and now they're there?
Yes. And it happens. I'm walking down my street and they're like, hey, are you Sheena? That happens all the time. They know me because of my sneakers sometimes. They say, oh my God, I saw those. That must be you. So I have a sneaker addiction and I post about it a lot. But yeah, it's a really exciting place to be. We try to plan an event every month, and it's pretty much the same thing. We're trying to give people either some kind of like educational value, a negotiations class, or we bring a divorce attorney in or something like that. We always charge something between $25 and $40. And usually that entire amount goes to a local charity. So in that, we also provide a platform for local charities. They come in and they get like 5 minutes to speak. So we're also have some influence there. We have a lot of people at our local charities who purchase homes from us because we love on them. And so I think it just, and we try to mix it up. Like we're having a speed friending event coming up soon. In my mind, that's curing loneliness, which is really important right now. And I do think that I've sort of hopefully become kind of a person that people want to be around for, like, positivity. I mean, I have people say, like, I want to sit right next to you, and of course I want to sit next to everybody, but just want to be that light for people. And so
we had another model moment, and if I get it wrong, tell me, but we're doing one physical event per month. We're driving to that event from all the folks on Facebook and in our groups. We're charging between $25 and $40. And then all of that money is going to a local charity that we are allowing to speak for 5 minutes at the event. And the event, it sounds like they're life-based. Coaching from a divorced person, a financial advisor, a personal trainer. Am I on the right track here, Sheena?
That's right. The other kind of thing we do is we do a lot of charity events. So and very simple. I don't like to spend a lot of money. So we have a bake sale. We just had our 4th annual bake sale to benefit the local child advocacy center. And we just encourage all kids to come and bake and sell. And this year we raised $4,000 at that bake sale, which is kind of a lot for a bake sale. We also have a father-daughter dance that we do. It's the same model. People pay $50 a couple, and all the money goes to charity, and we add more people to our database and love on them.
Oh my God, a daddy-daughter dance. I love that. And you find you find a local place, you cater, you do the whole shot. So this reminds me, I used to teach this course, and I would say if you could become the best part of somebody's year one time, you're good. You can become the best part of their life once a month, you're even better. And if you find a way to become the best part of their week, it's a wrap. And this sounds like you're literally becoming the best part of their month with events like this. Okay, last question for me as I'm winding this up here. We've been focusing primarily on Facebook, and that's because you may have been the first one there. I recently have joined the Face pages as well. It's kind of a big deal. Many people are talking about it. Are you on any of the other platforms? And if so, because I don't want to overwhelm everybody, what's the 1 or 2 other platforms that I need to be thinking about being on as well?
I think the question to ask is, where are your people? So maybe you're younger and all your people on Instagram, that's where you need to be.
Cool.
If everyone you know is on Twitter, that's where you need to be. If you came from the corporate world and all your connections are on LinkedIn, that's probably where you need to be and invest time.
Cool. So are you a podcast listener? Are you a voracious reader? What are you reading right now? What are you listening to? What's the best documentary in your life right now? What's going on?
I love talking about books. I'm not a huge podcaster. I'm obsessed with books. I don't read as many as you, but I read a book a week at least. I read a lot about social justice. I just finished Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers, which I thought was pretty good. I just read Innovation Stack. I was a little bit late on that. John Lewis's book is my favorite book this year. Over the Bridge, that's what it's called. One of my favorite things to do is read books about questions. The 7 Powers of Questions. I think that was the latest book I read. I'm obsessed with that. My favorite coaching book, if anybody's looking for how to really talk to your people and inspire them, The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching. It's not very well known, The Heart of Laser Focused Coaching, but I think it's the most brilliant book on coaching. It's a little bit like therapy, but it's
Gosh knows I could use some more therapy. That's what the therapist literally told me. He said, you need more of this. So that's fantastic. What are you watching? Anything good on Netflix?
I don't really watch that much TV. I did start reading a lot more in the last few years because I needed to undo all my Bravo watching. Because I feel like garbage in. I need to balance it out with some real intellectual stuff. So, but Selling Sunset, that's really the only thing that I watch. I don't really watch TV. I'm obsessed with reading.
So good. I love that. Okay, this is awesome. We had a bunch of different model moments. And here's what I found inspiring about this. It sounds like you can run a really, really hyper laser focused time management system around the Facebook and social media systems that we learned today. Last question, what's the biggest mistake I would make if I tried to hang up on this? I listened to this interview, I feel so good right now, I'm gonna go do this. Protect me. What's the mistake that I'm gonna make? How do I avoid it?
You get too scared and you don't do it.
Tell me more.
You think everybody's going to judge you, but I can tell you the reason that people follow me, whether I say things that maybe sometimes I make mistakes or I upset people, the authenticity. People say that all the time to me, it is the authenticity. So just be yourself and be thrilled with being yourself.
I love that. I tell you what, you exude positivity. I I try to name every interview that I do when I get to the end, but if you hate the name, you got to tell me. Sheena, I think we got to call this one The Power of Love. It sounds like you are loving people at scale, and I am smitten with it. Is that okay?
I'm like on this thing of like revolutionary love, like no strangers. So
that's how the universe works. Ladies and gentlemen, the artist is Sheena Sadam. The interview, The Power of Love, the models, how to go out and make social media work for you. Thanks for joining us. Hey everybody, if you like that, there is so much more. Click here right now to watch more of them. But before you do, pound that subscribe button. That helps the channel. It helps us help more people. Remember, when you give, you get. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and then we can keep giving. Friends, click here now.